The day my adult children made me feel like a ghost. They were talking about me, like I wasn't even in the room. Not cruelly, not with malice. They were laughing, planning, reminiscing, moving so fast through the conversation, I couldn't find a place to step in. And so, I just sat there, fork in hand, smiling politely at a story I used to be part of. That was the day my adult children made me feel like a ghost. Not gone, just unseen. Like furniture, like wallpaper, like something once familiar that you stop noticing after a while. I remember the sound of the silverware clinking, the way my chair creaked when I shifted my weight, the hollow echo of my own silence. I tried to make a joke, a little comment, not even a big one, but they smiled in that way. People smile when they're being polite. And then they went right back to talking, like I'd never said a word. That's when it hit me. They didn't mean to shut me out, but they had. And the worst part? I almost let them. The dinner table. It was just dinner. A regular Sunday roast. Mashed potatoes, green beans, my mother's old china. I'd been in the kitchen since noon, basting, timing, checking that the gravy didn't separate. They arrived, loud, hungry, cheerful, dropped coats by the door. Kids ran down the hallway. My daughter called out, "Smells amazing, Mom." And for a moment, I felt warm, useful, needed, still part of something. We sat down together, same table we've used for years. The one with the tiny burn mark from a candle that tipped in 2004. I watched them pass dishes and talk over each other, booking vacations, discussing their kids' schools. My son said he might take the job in Halifax. I opened my mouth to say something, to ask a question, offer a thought, but someone else spoke louder, then someone else. And just like that, my sentence vanished. I took a sip of water instead. No one noticed. The joke that didn't land. Later in the meal, someone mentioned a memory from when they were little. A family camping trip that had gone hilariously wrong. They were laughing about the rain, the collapsed tent, the squirrel that stole the granola bars. And I said, without thinking, "Remember when we had to dry your underwear over the campfire?" I smiled, a little mischief in the tone. That used to make them laugh for days. But this time, a chuckle, a polite one. And then, right back to their conversation, like I was the old woman at the corner of the table whose stories they'd already heard, like I was part of the background noise. And it wasn't the joke that stung, it was the look they gave me, warm but dismissive, the way you look at a childhood book you've outgrown but don't have the heart to throw away. The role shift. Later that night, when they'd gone home and the dishes were drying on the rack, I sat in the dark and thought about how many things I still do without being asked. I make the meals, host the birthdays, wrap the presents for the grandkids, keep the family calendar updated on the fridge. But somewhere along the way, my role shifted. I used to be the center, the anchor, the one who knew where everyone was supposed to be, what time dinner was, how to get crayon off the wall. Now I'm the one waiting for updates, waiting for photos, waiting for someone to remember that I still have stories too, that I still think about things, that I still feel things. But you don't want to say that out loud. It sounds needy, like you're asking for attention. And we were raised not to ask for that. The breaking point. It wasn't one big moment. It never is. It's 100 little slights that build like dust in a room you forgot to clean. It's sitting at your own table, in your own home, surrounded by people you love, and realizing you could stand up, walk out, and they might not notice for 5 minutes. I kept thinking, If I just left this chair right now, would anyone pause? Would anyone say, "Where'd Mom go?" That thought sat with me like a stone in my shoe. I carried it with me into the hallway, into the laundry room, closed the door, and let out the breath I hadn't realized I was holding. And I cried, quietly, because it wasn't just about dinner, it was about fading, about the slow erosion of presence, about the terrible possibility that love can still exist without attention. The memory that rose up as I sat there, back against the dryer, I remembered when they were small. The way they'd call for me in the middle of the night, the way they used to crawl into my lap without asking, the way they used to say, "Mom, watch this," every 10 minutes. Back then, they couldn't imagine a world where I wasn't watching. And now, they don't even notice when I fall silent. That contrast hit like a wave, beautiful and devastating. It's a strange kind of heartbreak, to be surrounded by the people you love most in the world and still feel completely alone. The question I couldn't ignore. I went to bed that night with a question curled in my chest like a sleeping cat. Is this what aging is? Not the gray hair, not the creaky joints, but this, the quiet disappearance from your own story, the steady slide from being central to being supporting cast. And the more I thought about it, the more I knew. This wasn't just about me. I wasn't the only one feeling like a ghost at a table I helped build. The next morning, I didn't say much. Not over coffee, not over toast. I just kept thinking about the laundry room, the dinner table, the hollow echo of my own silence. I wasn't angry, not really. It wasn't about blame. It was about loss, a different kind of loss. The kind where you're still alive, but slowly vanishing from the picture. And I realized, if I didn't say something, I'd keep disappearing. A little more with each meal, each skipped question, each polite smile that said, "We love you, but we've stopped listening." So I did something I haven't done in a long time. I called my son, and I asked him to come over. Just him. No kids, no distractions. He seemed worried. "What's going on?" I said. "I just need a moment of your time." We sat in the kitchen, the same one I used to make his lunch in. He looked tired, older than I remember. And I told him, not in anger, not in guilt, but in truth. "I know you don't mean to, but sometimes I feel like I'm fading in my own family." He blinked, looked away, and then he listened, really listened, and right then, I knew something had shifted. Not everything, but enough to begin again. That conversation didn't change the world. It didn't reverse time or make them hang on my every word, but it did something better. It opened a small, warm space between us, one where I could exist again, not just as the one who cooks or babysits or remembers everyone's birthdays, but as me. I told them, I'm still here, still full of thoughts and stories and the need to belong. And to my surprise, they didn't brush it off. They leaned in. They asked questions. They listened, really listened. And slowly, I stopped shrinking. Not because they suddenly understood everything, but because I'd reminded myself that I have a right to be seen. Not as I used to be, but as I still am. We expect love to just know what we need. But sometimes, love needs a nudge, a whisper, a raised hand at the table that says, I'd like to speak too. It wasn't perfect. There are still moments I feel small. But now, they see me, and I see myself. And maybe that's what courage looks like at this age. Not grand gestures, but simply refusing to disappear. The day my adult children made me feel like a ghost wasn't the end of our story. It was the day I realized I didn't have to haunt the edges. I could speak, be seen, take up space in my own life again. And if you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever sat at a table and wondered whether your voice still matters, let me tell you, it does. You are not done. You are not past. You are still becoming. And sometimes, the first step back into the light is simply saying, I'm still here. And now they know it. And more importantly, so do I. So the next time I sit down at that table, I'll bring my stories with me, my laughter, my history, my voice, because I've earned that seat, and I'm not giving it up. And speaking of voices, in our next episode, I'll tell you why I've started talking to my dog like he's my husband, and why, honestly, that might be exactly what I need right now.